Thanks, Tahinduka. I really appreciate it. And thanks for that very lovely intro. Hi guys, I'm Wait, just confirming I'm audible. Brilliant. Okay. Hi, guys. So I'm Chantelle, and I have been coaching the Kenya WSDC team since 2023. So far, we've gone to Vietnam WSDC, Serbia WSDC, Panama coming up next year. So throughout these experiences, I think I have a lot of interesting things that I've picked up along the way. It's just been really a learning journey for me, and I'm sure that it will be for you guys as well. No matter the stage that you're at in your coaching journey, there'll be so much to learn, and it'll be really interesting. So I hope you guys are excited for your journeys. So I would like to share my screen. I have a pretty brief PowerPoint that I'd like to share with you guys and just take you through training teams for a competition. Just confirming my screen can be seen. Brilliant. Okay. All right. Let's do the full screen. Okay, we can see this in full screen, right? I'll need someone to like speak so that I can hear you because I'm not on the Meet screen anymore. Mhm. Oh, it is. It's not showing on the screen? Sorry, let me try that again. Okay. Sorry, let me put it first and then I present the screen and see whether that will work. Okay. Screen is there. Is it in slideshow mode now for you guys? Yay. Okay, it's working. Okay, perfect. So we're just gonna go through this is like a pretty brief PowerPoint, just kind of summarizing everything that I've learned in terms of how to best optimize your training, your teams for competition. If you have questions, I'd like questions. So please hold them to the end if you don't mind. So you can just write down your questions and whatever, and then we'll have like a bit of a Q&A towards the end of the session, so we can accumulate these things as we go on. So, overview of what we'll do today is just like a quick SWOT analysis in terms of what to do with your teams. We'll look at observation of your team's characteristics. We'll look at prep time strategy. We will look at overall strategy and speaking, content and style, and then prep comps. So, first of all, a SWOT analysis. So, SWOT just being strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. I'm sure many of you have come across SWOT analysis before. So this is literally just what you do for the team that you've selected. So I'm taking this presentation from the point where I've assumed you guys have already done your trials, you've selected your team who are going to now participate in such and such competitions. So at the point where you've done all that, and now it's just about prepping them for these comps, you first want to start off with a SWOT analysis of your children. So number one, what are the strengths each child has? Some children might be really strong at constructive speaking. Others would be really strong at specifically engagement or special tactics like weighing and clash identification. Some would be just like content powerhouses. Like you'll meet some students who you know that content is not an issue with them. We actually had one of those when we did Serbia this past year. Her name was Asmara. The woman was a powerhouse, and we managed to use that as part of the strategy as well. So your children are definitely going to have strengths, some of them different, some of them similar. It's good to just note these down and have, of course, have frequent meetings as coaches as well to see how you can optimize those strengths in competition settings. Same thing for weaknesses. Some children might have weaknesses to do with personality, or things like resilience, or even just, of course, skill gaps, the regular things, right? Content gaps are a really big issue, actually. For most of the teams or kids that I've coached, content gaps are a thing. So that's probably the biggest area that you'll need to fill. It's also the hardest to fill because kids tend to forget these things, or when it comes time to application, it's a problem. So learning is fine, application is the issue. So there's so many issues to do with content that we'll also deal with in terms of the strategies. So content gaps are another weakness. It could be personality as well. It could be engaging with new skills or learning new skills as well and putting those things into practice. Sometimes it's like some kids get into a block, like they just cannot perfect this skill no matter how much you're doing, no matter how much training you're doing. At that point, you also want to look at one-on-one sessions with a child if they are not keeping up with the rest of the team, and just work on, training them one-on-one as well, and just putting in that time with them as a coach. It not only will it help you identify their weaknesses more deeply, but it also helps them establish a relationship with trust and understanding with you as a coach. So you want to make sure that you do that, especially for the kids that are kind of lagging behind, so that they also don't feel left behind or feel like, stupid or whatever. You want to make sure that your kids are in a good place. Opportunities as well. So of course, this ties into the strengths. You want to look at, opportunities are more of you're projecting into the future. How can we be able to maximize the strengths to seize such and such opportunities? So for example, some kids might be better with a certain demographic. Like for example, they might be more confident engaging with teams within the African circuit. But when you put them in front of the white man, they get scared, right? You see a lot of teams like this that have the superiority complex that simply just comes from, wow, European countries and all these things, especially if the kids have not been exposed to that in international schools. So here we're talking about like kids that go to local schools that maybe they don't have, much interaction with international students. And for the first time now, they're going to see these kids online at European comps and whatever. It really is a thing, guys. It really is a thing. We might have overcome it ourselves, but for these kids, it's like, when they haven't been exposed to these guys, it's a whole issue. So some kids might do better with the African circuit where, they're used to us guys, and they might flop in the international circuit. So you need to look at those opportunities. Maybe we start them off with the Africans, then we start, building their confidence slowly towards the European circuit and get them over that whole, superiority complex thing. That's definitely something to look for in your children. Second of all, and these things, by the way, they won't come out obviously. Like you'll just see a trend in their debates. Not like they'll tell you. It's not like they even know what it is themselves, right? So they can't pinpoint it for you themselves, but it's your duty as coaches to just analyze the trends of their speeches, especially against different types of teams, and then note, what kind of hindrances there might be, so that you can be able to best maximize the opportunities you have. And then lastly, the threats. These kind of expand beyond debating itself. It can even go into things like finances, right? Sometimes when you have to go to these physical comps, especially WSTC itself, it costs a lot of money. So when you're selecting your teams and preparing people as well, sometimes for a period of time during coaching, and I'm sure Tahinduka can attest to this as well, he's been through the same thing. Sometimes, finances can be a bit of an issue because your kids, they'll tell you, yeah, we're good. The parents will also say, yeah, we'll go, WSDC, you do a payment plan, you do everything. And then these kids, and then the parents rather, something happens and now they're like, oh, we can't pay this much, whatever. So you need to have backups, basically. For every threat, you need to have a contingency plan. If this thing happens, if you can tell this parent is really struggling, they might not fulfill what is needed of them. We either need a financial backup plan or we need to replace this speaker if anything happens. And for that to happen, you need to, of course, bring everything else in SWOT, the strengths, the weaknesses, the opportunities of other speakers to see whether they can adequately fill the gap that you'll have left. I think one of the things that is the most detrimental in the coaching experience is having to replace a gap last minute, and you're not able to adequately fill that gap. If your content powerhouse cannot pay for WSDC last minute after having discussions with the parents and them committing to it, if anything happens last minute and they cannot come, you have to replace that content powerhouse with someone who is not nearly as good, right? So you want to make sure that you fill in those gaps beforehand, especially if you know that there's going to be financial difficulties ahead. You want to make sure your contingencies are going to be adequate. And even if they might not be exact in terms of filling the gaps, you know that at least the gap wouldn't be that big. You just want to try to minimize damage or minimize harm, right? So whatever you do with those threats, try to do that. So those are financial threats. There's also threats in terms of team dynamics changing. As children go through things, you'll witness there's a lot of drama. There's a lot of drama. There's a lot of tea between these children that can conspire. So first of all, you need to have rules within the team that say, no fraternizing with each other. You don't want children having relationships in the teams and things. I mean, that's just totally unnecessary drama. So if you notice any of that going on, you either need to end it before it continues, or you need to kick one of them out or both of them out. These are tough decisions you'll need to make, but they're for the greater good of the team. So you need to be sure to avoid those threats and be very, very keen in terms of observing the kids' team dynamic, how they keep interacting with each other, because things will change. I'll guarantee you for sure. There's no team where the dynamic remains exactly the same for the entire duration of the training until the competition. The dynamics are going to change. You just have to adapt with them, and you have to make sure that the changes don't threaten the success of the team in the future. So there's that as well. There's also threats in terms of skills and all these things, right? Which of course we'll continue to discuss going forward. But things like, content gaps and all these things are definitely also threats that you can easily avoid by just, training them better on content, doing drills for specific things. So I would say those threats are easier to avoid, or not too easy to recover from if the comp has already reached and these kids don't know what they're doing, but they're easier to avoid preemptively, I would say, than things like the financial, filling in the gap for children or having financial difficulties, etc. So I would say overall, with the SWOT analysis, you want to make sure you rank your tasks or duties in terms of priority. Once you've done your SWOT analysis for your kids as coaches, you really need to make sure you prioritize the most risky potential situations that could arise. So especially, as we said, things like finances, etc. You want to put those at the forefront, because you really don't want to be caught up in those situations. It has happened to us before, and it's not been the best thing. So please learn from our mistakes. Observation. Secondly, so this is really more of like psychoanalysis of your children. So you want to make sure you take note of things like personality clashes between teammates. I think we talked a bit about this when we talked about changes of the team dynamic, synergy within the team, reactions under stress, recovery post-loss, ability to fulfill duties, ability to manage workload, and reliability as a team member, among other things you want to just check out in terms of how teams are interacting with each other. So here it's less practical hardcore skills based, and it's much more kind of soft skills. And these are very, very important. Like, please pay attention to this note over here. It will literally make or break your team. I've been in cases where the team is moving fine skills wise. Then there's just, all it takes is one person being fraudulent to just mess up the entire dynamic of the team. Like one person just being fraudulent, guys, just being fraudulent, coming here with random, I'm not going to name the things, because it's not to say that children who have particular personality disorders should not debate. They can, but you just need to make sure you're aware of how they are impacted by different situations, and make sure you navigate those situations with them, and make sure that it minimizes the negative impact of the team. All right, that's number one. Number two, the of the views is to literally just make sure you have like a cap to say, this is the limit of things I'm willing to accept. I don't think I can deal with situations where the child, for example, has anxiety or depression. I don't think I can deal with that. Or if the child has like bipolar, I don't think I can deal with that. So it's fine. Like as coaches, it's okay to recognize what your limits are. It's not necessarily discriminatory at the point where you're prioritizing the majority of the team. Just think of it utilitarian wise. But it is also good to give them a chance. Like, this is not to say because someone has been diagnosed with, bipolar, they shouldn't be on the team. You need to give them the chance. If they simply just can't cope with these situations, or they're making things worse, then you can just cut them off, knowing that you tried your best and that you gave them a chance, right? But don't feel that you would be discriminatory if you cut them off at the point where you realize they're doing more harm than good to a team. Sometimes you really have to make tough decisions as coaches. The kid will not be amused. The parents may not be amused. Of course, you don't need to tell them the reason. Don't tell them the reason. But they might not be amused, but it's for the greater good of the team. So I've been in situations where prep time, something as simple as just critiquing a particular argument, becomes an entire fight. Like, it's drama from one person. And that then impacts the team because they're not able to move forward with prep. They don't know how to deal with this person's emotions. They don't know how they're going to move forward. This person is supposed to speak in first speaker, and they're prop, and they're here throwing tantrum, So these things are very serious. They can literally make or break your team. So please don't be afraid as coaches to just make executive decisions at the point where you're seeing practically, we've given this kid a chance. They're not able to cope with these things. Debate is not for the soft-hearted, especially when you're doing it as competitively as like the world's level. You can't afford to have those things. You need teammates who are able to deal with these things. So that's observation. Next is prep time. All right. Prep time is very important, like the most important. This will definitely make or break your win or loss in a particular round. So these little icons here are basically to symbolize the three most important things for a successful prep time that your kids will need to practice from the get-go: a leader, a timer, and a tracker. The leader and the timer, usually for more experienced children, will be combined. So when I say leader, or leader of the prep time, what I mean is this can either be the captain of the team or someone who is very efficient at managing the prep time. But you do need someone who is able to just manage the prep time. Management just meaning a few things. Number one, you need them to signal when people can speak and when they shouldn't speak. Number two, you need them to time how long that person speaks and then move to the next person so that they're able to share their ideas. Number three, a certain level of veto power depending on the experience of the leader. If you have a very experienced debater who is usually very good at seeing early on the key clashes of the debate and understanding where the arguments are going to fit, then you should afford them a level of veto power to just say, that argument will not fit into the clash. We need to scrap it. This argument is fine. Let's pass it. That person can then be responsible for that. Of course, the team can be able to discuss a few things, but at the point where they exercise veto power, the discussion stops. It is not an argument. It's not a democracy. That argument needs to go, or that argument needs to stay, right? If the child is experienced to a certain level and you do trust their analysis in terms of just majority of motions, then giving them veto power will really help you guys with efficiency, right? If you don't have a child like that in the group, then let nobody have veto power. Let the children just discuss, but let the timer be the dictator, meaning that we have given 5 minutes for this discussion. 5 minutes are up. We need to now move to speech writing time, right? So in that case, then it just depends on how much you can do within a particular time. So the leader and the timer can either be combined into one person both leads and times, which is really effective because, if you have a separate leader and a timer, sometimes, things can get a little bit messy or lost in communication. So if a child is able to handle both of those things, then it's fine. Or if you find that maybe the child is getting a bit confused, either find a different leader or you can just, separate the tasks. One person leads, the other person times. You also need a tracker, someone who just writes what everyone says, everything they say, even though it's fraudulent. They just write everything so that they can be able to reiterate to the team a summary of what has been said and how we can move forward. This person needs to be very quick in terms of thinking and writing at the same time. They also need to have very good summary skills because you're not writing word for word as people speak. That's not practical. So yes, these are the main things that you need to have in terms of prep time. It will really depend though, in terms of your children's dynamic, the time, breaking down the timing of the prep time, right? I hear, yes. Ah, oh, no, really? Oh no. Oh no. Oh, they've moved. Oh gosh. Okay, let me do another test and see whether you guys can see them moving again in real time. Um, can you see them move?
Yeah, they're not moving again.
They're not moving. Oh man, sorry guys. I'm
Now
so
they are
sorry.
moving.
Now they're moving. Oh no, I'm so sorry guys. I didn't even realize.
Yeah, yeah, now they're
Yeah.
moving.
Okay, I think I know what I'll do. I think I'll go out and put them on a particular thing and then I'll make it full screen and then I'll repeat the process again. I'm sorry. Thanks for letting me know though. Okay, good. So this was when I was talking about the SWOT. It was literally just these few shapes over here. These were the notes for the observation of or the psychoanalysis of your children. So if it's useful, you can take a picture. But I'll send this PowerPoint to Tahinduka as well, so that you guys have reference. Yes, this is where I was talking about the prep time over here. Yes, so basically that's, yeah, I think I've said everything in terms of prep time. The last thing I think I was saying is that the timing breakdown will definitely vary according to your team, their synergy, and also, of course, according to whether it's going to be a prepared or impromptu motion. The prep times for those will vastly differ. But without getting into crazy detail of situational analysis, this is the overview that can just work for any prep time because, the details of it definitely are situation dependent. Yes, so leader, tracker, and timer as well. Let me go here. Yes. So strategy and speaking. There's many different things that you can do. And I would probably say try to use all these things and more, whatever else you might find is useful for your children. Just add it to these list of things and keep flipping between all of these things. Some of these things will work with some children and others will work for others. So you just need to keep monitoring and asking your kids for feedback for what is the most useful for them as well. And also, make the executive decision as coaches, because even though a child might not like something, it's probably the best thing to help them improve, and you're seeing that improvement. So things like drills, right? Depending on your child's weaknesses from the SWOT analysis or whatever, the drills are very important. Things like, for example, a drill that I like to do that works very, very well to teach my children engagement is mechanistic drills. So, for example, I'll give them a claim and then I'll tell, like, just a random claim, for example, there is no free will. Then I'll tell them, give me 3 reasons why this is untrue, 2 reasons why it's unlikely to happen in this particular world, and give me an even if analysis, taking, the claim at its best, right? So I'll tell them to do that with a whole bunch of random claims just to get like repeat work so that they can be able to, to rebut with mechanisms. Or I'll tell them to support it. Give me 3 reasons why this is true. Give me 3 reasons why this is important in the context of society, and give me a preemptive or 2 preemptives against possible responses to this claim, right? So I'll do that with like a bunch of claims. We'll probably do it, like, I'll try to do it as often as possible until the child is not being fraudulent. So basically until they've almost perfected or mastered the thing. And then now the issue though with the drills is applying them to actual speeches. So the child, you'll find them mastering these drills, like they're killing it, like they're coming up with these things, on the spot. You've started with writing, they've graduated, they're able to come up with like 3 mechanisms from their head on the spot, and these mechanisms make so much sense. But now applying it to the actual speech, when they're in a competition and they've prepped their speech and now they're trying to respond or mechanize their claims or whatever, that's where you'll find a lot of confusion, a lot of confusion that comes in there. So I would say, as much as you do drills, try as much as possible to, whenever you do drills, make them applied to a speech. Whenever you do drills, get them in like a friendly round, try to hook up with other coaches. Hey, can we do a spar on this and this time, so that the child can be able to exercise whatever you've taught them within the drill, within an actual high pressure situation, or friendly comps, prep comps, whatever it might be. And then just do a round by round analysis with the child in terms of how they need to apply that better. So drills without application situations will never work. They don't make sense. They're like isolated little exercises in a vacuum. You really want to make sure you get them into application situations as much as possible as well. Adjusting your prep. So what we've talked about in terms of prep, as we said, it's very, very situational according to not only the team, but the motions as well, the comps as well. Very, very situational, but you want to make sure that you adjust your prep as much as possible. I don't be one of those coaches that says, you need to spend in a 30-minute prep, the first 5 minutes doing this, the next 7 doing this, the next 10 doing this, the next 2 doing this, and this needs to be applied in all prep times. No. Just be very, very flexible. Like whatever, even as, when you probably used to be a speaker, you would always, just do trial and error in terms of adjusting anything and everything so that you can be able to improve your speech. Same thing here for the children. Try anything and everything. Oh, this prep isn't working. Maybe silent time is a minute too long. Just reduce it by 1 minute, have some more discussion time. Maybe the mechanisms, when the child works on them alone, they're not coming out well, but when they work with this person, then they come out better. So put them into pairs where they can be able to mechanize claims together and help each other write each other's speech. There's so many things that you can be able to observe. So I would just suggest do many observed prep times with your children, and just keep adjusting. Every prep time you need to improve on at least one thing. No prep time should be the same, right? So every prep time you need to improve on at least one thing. And over time, you'll find that these things are going to be more and more refined, and the children are going to do better and better. In comps as well, wherever you can, try to observe the prep times. If, of course, there are lower pressure comps where the coaches can be able to enter the room, or when there's spars sessions as well, you can just be able to enter the room or ask them to record their prep times for you if you can't enter the room as well. Then you can be able to just watch back with your fellow coaches and see where you need to adjust the preps as well. So that's very important too. Recording speeches, pretty self-explanatory. The children need to record their own speeches, listen back to their fraudulence, give themselves feedback, you give them feedback, and they need to redo the speeches, implementing the feedback. This is the only way they'll be able to feel the difference of writing a proper speech and writing a fraudulent speech. So this and this go hand in hand. Recording speeches and repeating speeches, because they do need to repeat those speeches as well. Even 2 or 3 times, by the way. They repeat, again, you give them feedback, again, they redo the thing. They repeat, again, you give them feedback, again, they do. Like, until they feel like they've memorized the thing. You will keep doing it and keep doing it. That's the only way that they'll be able to understand. You want to do this as many times as possible where it is necessary. Exposure videos as well. So what I mean by this is getting high-level WSDC speakers from online, just YouTube. You can just YouTube WSDC 2024 round 1, WSDC 2020 grand finals, whatever. And then you want them to interact with the videos as much as possible. I find this very helpful also for application speeches, especially for like responses and engagement and weighing. So you would, for example, watch the prop first speaker. So first of all, actually, you would tell them to prep the upside, right? If it's engagement you want to work on, prep the upside, and then form your up case as if you're going to go against the speakers on YouTube. And then you would now watch the prop first speaker. As they're watching, it's like they're actually in a competition. They're writing these things, they're doing the engagement, whatever. You call them, they give their speech, and then now you give them feedback. Okay, this is how you engage with P1. You missed this, you need to do this, whatever. You can combine that with repeating speeches, or also just look at case progression. They watch the P2, they engage, they run their arguments as well. Watch the P3, give their responses from O3, do the replies as well. You can run a full debate against half of our team from YouTube. And then you can also witness their case progression and adjustment to the cases as well, in terms of how they're responding to things that they didn't see coming and all of that. I think exposure videos are great for that. Also, just to expose them to speakers of a higher level, speakers that speak differently than them, that think differently than them, that structure their speeches differently than them. You know, there's only so much you can do within a small, isolated, you know, group of people in training. You need to expose these people like as much as possible. And that also is something to help them get over the whole, you know, white man superiority bias thing. Judging, your kids need to judge. They need to judge competitions. This will really help them understand their fraudulence. As soon as you put the kid in front of a debate and tell them, judge this thing, they will realize how many holes they have in their own strategy and their own speaking, because now they actually get to see it from the other side. Try to get them to judge, at least, you know, judging doesn't need to be the priority, but they do need it just for some exposure here and there. You can judge, you know, some local tournaments or whatever, whatever tournaments they can sign up to judge would be great. Even online ones would be great as well, just as trainee judges. It's not really for anything apart from just their own experience and their own reflection of their speeches as well, but also to start growing their judging skills, because we do want them to give back to the WSTC community after they're done with it and they go to uni. Yes, so I would probably say, you know, try to get them to judge maybe a comp a month. And just, you know, that I think that would probably be enough to help them, just depending on where they are, though, depending on where they are. And then lastly, feedback files. They should be writing and recording feedback that you give them, but also that judges give them from the prep comps and everything, and that coaches give them from spa sessions as well. They should be writing so that they can keep track of it in terms of progress. They should have like a little spreadsheet of skills that show, you know, the skills that they need to work on. And then they can color code it or whatever. It depends on how they want to arrange it. But the point of that is to keep looking at that after every speech you make, every round you do. You look at that and say, okay, I'm receiving this feedback. I've received it before, meaning that I haven't improved on this skill yet. So I need to work on this. So now you as a coach also know what drills to give them to help them work on their weak spots, but they also know as well that they also identify their own weak spots as well and can continue to work on that outside of coaching sessions. I think speakers working outside of the sessions you train them as well is the most helpful thing for strategy and for speaking as well. If they just rely on you feeding them content, drills, and only work when you're there, then that's a recipe for disaster. They really have to be self-motivated as well. And, you know, you can give them homework and all these things, but they also have to go and look for these things themselves. If they're not displaying that, then you probably then know the speaker is likely to plateau, and you might want to reevaluate their place in the team as well. Content and style. We're almost there. So content and style. To do this, I would say guest coaches are your best resource. You are not expected to be an expert on everything. Nobody is an expert on everything. So I would say maximize, you know, getting guest coaches to come in and just give content sessions. You can do a session for a session. So there's many sessions, for example, for WSTC teams where I'm called to teach a content session on such and such a topic. So it can be style or it can be content, right? So it can be, for example, I've gone to teach them about principles, or I've gone to teach them about feminism and the media. I've gone to teach them about economics or whatever it might be. Then you tell the other coach, okay, fine, I'll come and teach you guys this thing. You come and teach us this other thing, right? So you come and you just do exchange sessions in terms of you and your guest coaches, and it should be fine. Get them for style as well. If you and your group of coaches are not stylistic people, for example, us guys in WSDC Kenya, me, Mashari, and Adika, we're not stylistic speakers. Oh, sorry. I don't think that I'm moving this thing. Yeah, there we go. Sorry, guys. Yes, that's what I'm talking about here. So yes, content and style. So if you know you're not stylistic speakers or coaches, please get style coaches. Get style coaches to come and train your people. People like Umar, Webster. I mean, these guys are really, really, really amazing at style. Mukudzi, Shea. So these people should just, you just work out an arrangement with them, and then, do a session for a session. Style as well. I would also say, just try to encourage your children to find their own unique style, because style is so subjective and it's so unique as well. You can't really train it in a particular session. So try to encourage your kids as much as possible to watch as many different debates as possible, check out styles that they like or they think they resonate with, and then they can just try and practice their own individual styles in every speech they give and all of that, quotes and whatever. People do so many things, jokes and things like that, stories within speeches. The style can get really interesting when kids get comfortable with that. And then for content, quizzes, case files, presentations, essays, lectures, where the children are the ones who are taking you through a particular topic, a hot seat Q&A where they study a particular topic and you just become their biggest ops. Like, you are the enemy of progress. You are asking them everything to take their case down and they have to defend it to the end. Those are very interactive and interesting sessions, actually, where children are just forced to, you have to know the topic back to front so that you can be able to do that. So very nice, very high pressure situations as well. And you can even have like prizes or whatever, make sure that you give your kids a little bit of fun to enjoy as well. And yeah, I would also just say, at the end of these things, make sure that they enjoy, make sure that you also bond with their children, take them to socials and all of this stuff. So it's not always heavy, 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 heavy stuff. They're also rewarded at the end, which give them a bit of a break and some energy to come back and do what they need to do. Um, Yes. Lastly, prep comps. Prep comps are your best friends, and flexibility is key. Flexibility in terms of changing your strategy, as we talked about, changing prep time strategy. Don't be afraid of switching the roles of your children as well. Move this one to first speaker, move this one to third, move this one here, this one does what. So prep comps are like your playground. Don't treat them as we have to win these things. Treat them as this is our experimental playground. We just get to enjoy, we just get to play around with different combinations of things, etc. I think the worst thing coaches can do with prep comps is try to make them an accolade collection scheme. Like, or we want to say we reached the semifinals of this comp, or we won this comp, or we got this many best speaker medals for this comp. Nothing really matters until it is the biggest comp that you're aiming for, whether that comp is Worlds itself, whether that comp is a pre-Worlds, whether that comp is national or regional or whatever it is. You have one end goal comp that you're all aiming for as coaches. That's literally all that matters. All the prep comps before that should literally just be seen as your playgrounds. Not playgrounds in terms of the kids don't take it seriously, but playgrounds in terms of you guys just experimenting things and the kids doing the same as well, so that by the time you reach your biggest comp that you're aiming for, you've done the research, you're more confident, you know what works, you know what doesn't work. And also at that point in time, people can't start coming here to tell you, oh, can we now try this thing? You tried that thing 10 times, it failed all 10 times, so that at the point where you reach that competition, there's no more experimenting. You know what works, you know what's likely to succeed, and you know what has brought you the most success from those comps. Yeah, so that's basically it. So yeah, thank you guys. This is the end of the comp of the presentation. I'm now open to any questions that you guys have, or anything that maybe I was unclear about that you might want me to repeat. No. I actually haven't. I haven't coached MUN guys. I haven't coached world scholars. No, I've just done WSTC coaching. Yeah, NBP of course. Yeah, I'm sorry about that. I think Masharia though would be an interesting person to ask that stuff to. Yeah, Masharia would know. Mm, yeah, for sure. Cool. Any other questions? Okay, I think then if there's no questions, I'm hoping that's because I was clear and not because I just spoke nonsense the entire time. But yeah, thank you guys so much for coming. I really appreciate you guys giving me your time, those of you who are here. And yeah, love and light. I hope you guys do well with your kids, enjoy the coaching experience, and thanks to Hinduka as well for inviting me. It was a pleasure. Sorry, just repeat the last sentence you said. Okay.
Oh yeah. So first and foremost, very good evening to all of us. I'd like to thank all of us for coming through for this training. I think it is very intentional of us to want to make ourselves much better before we try to make the students that we are going to be training much better. And I can't thank you enough for putting in the effort. I want to thank Chantelle for always. I think this is like the the fifth time I've attended your sessions, and they are always amazing. So I want to thank you for always coming through, for always giving back to the community, both in terms of coaching and in terms of coaching the coaches and judging and all that. We can't thank you enough. I think from my end, the knowledge was really rich, as always is. And yeah, I'd like to wish all of you a great night and thank you for coming through.
Oh, I appreciate. Thank you so much, Xavier, for those very kind words. And thank you all again for lending me your time tonight. And have a great evening, guys. Thanks so much for everyone.